Really appreciate it. It's been a little while getting this set up, but...
A little bit, right? Been talking about this for months. We finally got it done.
Yeah.
So this is the first podcast. What do you think of the setup?
I think it's great. It definitely turned out a lot better than what I was expecting, just some last-minute stuff. So
yeah, you were expecting the kitchen counter.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, we tried to do it a little bit, right,
Yeah.
So, all right, so the first thing we're going to talk about today is real estate, because this is basically what you do, for a living, for fun, for the past, how long have you been doing it?
It's been a decade as of a couple months ago, so a little over 10 years. Yeah.
Okay, so take us through when you first started. What got you into real estate versus basically anything else?
It's a great question. I was actually a kid, and my grandmother worked for an apartment complex that she was like the leasing agent, took care of general stuff at the property, operations, and we went to a beach house one summer that was just beautiful in Nags Head, Outer Banks, and I was like, what does this guy do for a living that has this beautiful property? And of course, he owned the apartment complex, so that kind of started the spark, an interest there. So from there, just kind of went on to segueing to getting involved in single family, slowly, scaling up to getting into multifamily now, commercial properties. So it's been quite a journey.
Nice. Yeah, that's kind of a thing, right? Like when you're younger, you see something that you like and that you want to obtain, and then you ask the question, how do I get that? And then
backwards.
That basically brings you into what you're going to do the rest of your life, if you want it bad enough.
Yeah, that was exactly it.
Yeah. So that's what made you choose real estate over any other investment vehicle, right? Because there's other ways to make money, stocks and this and that, but because of that moment, that's what, got you into real estate versus anything else. Because you dabble in other stuff too, but your specialty is...
That's a good question, and I would say it set the spark, but it really got me thinking, like you said, asking the how question to figure out what path I needed to take to be successful and get the things I wanted to get and achieve. But fundamentally, I kind of knew actually getting started that there was 3 fundamental drivers for necessities for people to be able to make money. And it's our primary primitive needs are food, water, and shelter. Mm-hmm. And it's I wasn't going to go out and compete with Dasani and Nestle, and I wasn't going to go open up a restaurant.
No,
so I knew
leave that to Bill Gates.
So I knew that shelter was the way to go, and everyone needs housing. So it's one of those things that's supply and demand. So just kind of found that was going to be my path, and I knew that early on. I was about 16 years old, and kind of figured that out. So,
dude, that's a really insightful thing to realize when you're 16.
Yeah.
Awesome. So when evaluating a property, what is it that you look for in a property that would make it a good investment? Because of course, not all properties are a good investment. Probably most aren't. And how do you spot those ones that that are going to give you the maximum amount of returns or the most equity when you first get it?
Yeah, another great question. So that's kind of a lot to unpack, actually. I'll take it in little segments. And the last thing you said was get the most equity. You can buy any property with equity, but equity is basically determined by what someone else will pay for the property. And for single family or for residential properties, that's based on comparable sales. And for commercial properties, that's based on how much income it produces. So that's kind of the variables that fall into those different categories. For, what was the first part you said? I'm so sorry.
Makes it a good investment, I guess, in the long term versus equity right now, because most people actually, when they even buy a property, it's their home, their castle. This is what they want, but they don't think of it as a way to make money now. Whereas I know you do. You're trying to make money right away,
day one. Yeah.
But of course, over the long term, real estate only goes up in value.
Over a couple of decades,
Over a couple of decades. I mean, there's some low points, but within someone's lifetime, for sure, if you bought a home, within 10 years, you're basically looking at, even if you bought at the top at one cycle, in 10 years, you're probably going to be above that.
Absolutely, yeah. With long enough time, it will eventually make sense. So as far as fundamentally being able to find something that's going to make sense and evaluating a deal, it all comes down to buying it correctly and evaluating it if you're buying it as a rental. Mm-hmm. If you're buying it as a flip or something that's a quick turn, there's a whole other set of technical analysis that you can go down. But from a fundamental perspective, it's, how much is the operating expenses, what does the property produce in income, what can it bring in, and then from there, just kind of working back your numbers to figure out what your cash on cash return would be and your overall return on investment. So
yeah, okay, so
different pieces there.
Yeah, so this brings us into a good way because there's different ways to invest in real estate. We'll keep it low level for now.
Sure.
We'll talk about single family or multifamily. We won't get too much past that.
Residential, 1 to 4 units
Yeah.
probably would be good.
Exactly, residential. So there's a couple ways you can flip. There's the BRRRR method, which is always my favorite one to say. There's other ones, I guess, just buy and hold and rent. There's house hacking. So what are the main ways someone can invest in real estate, the different methods, I guess, that are out there for you to make money off of real estate?
Yeah, you covered quite a few there. So out the gate, some entry-level beginning investments would probably be to flip houses, get familiar with a lot of the moving components of buying and selling real estate, self-educate yourself. There's also wholesaling where you can get a property under contract and sell it to an actual active investor that's going to either rehab it or keep it as rental. You can do the BRRRR method where you're buying a property that's below market value. You're going to go in and renovate it, and then once you're done renovating, you'll rent it out to a tenant. Hopefully your numbers make sense.
Yeah.
And then you'll go back and refinance it so you can repeat it again. That's the BRRRR method. So there's the flipping, there's wholesaling, there's the BRRRR method, there's your traditional rentals where you can just go put a down payment, and as long as you calculate your ROI properly, hopefully be cash flowing, true cash flow, not phantom cash flow, which we can dive into at a later time. But there's a lot of different strategies. House hacking is a really good one where maybe you buy a single family or a small multifamily and live in one room, rent out the other rooms for a single family, or for a multifamily, live in one unit, rent out the others, and you can accelerate that by also getting roommates in your multifamily.
Yeah. So I have a feeling a lot of people from millennials down who have bought a home are house hacking out of necessity. They probably got themselves into something, and they're like, "Oof, this is a pretty hefty mortgage payment. Let's get a roommate for the second room." I did this. I did this for. Oh man, I bought in 2015, and my last roommate left just last year, so that was 7 years.
So you've had first-hand experience with house hacking.
Exactly.
It's a beautiful thing.
It helps. Yeah, it helped. It was enough to cover my mortgage for sure. It didn't cover all my expenses, but it covered my mortgage, and that was all I needed. It was good to not have rent or mortgage payment.
Yeah, and then there's one thing that I actually haven't heard anybody talk about, but it's kind of in that same alignment as we're talking about it now. It's kind of coming to the front of mind. Is lease hacking. Like people can actually go and lease a place like a 4-bedroom that's maybe $1,500 a month. Rent out the other 3 bedrooms for $500 each, and now you're lease hacking. So you don't just have to go in and buy something. You can also lease hack, or again, there's so many different variables to this and so many different options. So.
Yeah, this is good. Okay, so house hacking is a good one. Anyone can do that from when you buy a house, or even what do you call it, lease hacking? Yeah.
So you basically get a master lease in place, and you sublet to other tenants. You're definitely going to want to check with the owners to make sure that it's okay that you are subleasing. It's not in your lease that you're not allowed to, because there's some legal issues you can get into. And I do want to also state that nothing that I say on here is legal or financial advice. It's just all opinions that I'm giving. They're all my opinions from experience. And definitely do your own due diligence and talk to the people that you need to make sure you're legally compliant and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Little disclaimer.
So we got house hacking and lease hacking. Another one that I was interested in when I first started this whole thing, and one that I looked into, was the BRRRR method. Yeah. First it was house hacking, then it was the BRRRR method, and this is kind of something that me and you, we're doing there for a little bit. So this is where you buy, renovate, refinance. No,
you gotta rent it out first before you can get your refinance secured, because the bank's gonna want to see. And not always. You can sometimes get the refinance started before a lease is in place, but they're gonna want to see that you're refinancing a business basically, because the property's bringing in income.
And they want to see that income first.
Yes, and with this, you're most commonly using a product that's referred to as DSCR, which is a debt service coverage ratio loan. Okay. It's not based on how much you make as a person or your W-2. It's based on how much income the property is bringing in relation to what you're going to be paying the bank. And that's usually There's a whole other conversation there we can go off to, but it's usually about 1.25% of whatever the bank's payment is.
Okay.
They want to see that in income.
In income,
Yeah.
okay, from your personal income and from the money.
Nothing from your personal.
Nothing from your just from the
just
property.
from the property. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Which is also a very beautiful thing if you know how to do it correctly and analyze the deal.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Okay, so you're saying
Free
that
houses.
if your PMI is, let's say, 1,000, let's just use full numbers, 1,000 a month, they want to see you taking in 1,250.
That's a good rough number to
Okay.
be able to use. But when you said PMI, did you mean private mortgage insurance, or did you mean
I guess.
PITI?
I get. Okay.
Yeah, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
Okay. Principal interest. Yeah, that's basically your
Basic
mortgage
operating.
payment.
Yeah, basic operating for the
Okay.
property with most standard mortgages.
Yeah. And I mean, assuming you can put 20% down, there's also the mortgage insurance that you got to consider.
We don't want to do that.
We don't want to do that ever, right?
And if you're doing the BRRRR method, you actually, when you cash out refinance, because ideally, like a perfect world,
You should be under.
you should be
80%.
below that 75%. So,
Got it.
which to give a real quick rundown of what a perfect BRRRR would look like, if you bought a house for $50,000 and put $20,000 into it, factoring in your $5,000 for maybe some closing cost or loan origination cost, you'd be all into that property at $75,000. You can go back to the bank, and if it'll appraise for $100, say, hey, I'd like a loan for $75,000. If you used all cash or private money, whatever your financing is, and then say, hey, give me a loan for $75,000, and then you get either your cash back or you pay off those private money lenders or wherever you got the cash, hard money, and now you're completely into the house for $0.
Gotcha.
That's a perfect BRRRR.
Yeah. Okay. So it's buy, rehab, or renovate, rent,
Yes.
then refinance.
Yeah, and then you go repeat it once you get all of your money back. And not every
Okay.
deal is going to be perfect. Sometimes you may have not calculated something correctly. Maybe your scope of work for renovations was a little bit high. Maybe you went over on your construction budget, or maybe your after repaired value, what you thought it was going to be appraised for, came in a little bit low, which sometimes it happens. And as you and I have done a couple of deals of BRRRRs that you've seen, sometimes they come back way higher than expected when you're in a crazy market.
Yeah.
Timing can play into this a big part, but if you're buying BRRRR properties and you're in a macro environment where your property values are coming down, you want to aggressively plan for a reduction in your after repaired value to make sure that you're still able to exit with your refinance safely, or a sale if you have to, if you decide that you don't want to keep it. So keeping options open.
Okay. So this is assuming someone wants to buy the property, renovate, rent it out to get a steady cash flow.
Correct. Yes.
Every month.
Without having any money into it. So it's
without having any
free
money
rentals.
into it. Yeah. Okay. You just need either hard money loan access or your own cash up front that you can refinance out later.
It's good. Yeah. So any combination of access to capital, whether it's your own cash, whether it's institutional or agency money. True hard money lenders are considered agency. They do it for a living. Like they're professional money lenders. Or borrowing money from friends and relatives. Like you have to be very careful when you do this and make sure you're protecting people's capital. And obviously we've done some deals together and you've trusted in me that we're going to get them done, and we've done those. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. So that's assuming we want to rent the property and have steady cash flow every month.
Yes.
Then what if you want one good chunk of cash? Now we get to flipping, right?
Yeah, so they would just pivot your exit strategy to refinancing and keeping it to selling it on the open market, most likely be your best bet. Or you could sell it to another investor. Maybe you could package it where you place a tenant and then you sell it as a turnkey rental. Where now you've placed a tenant, you hire a property manager, it's a turnkey rental that can produce income for them, and you can sell it as turnkey. That's a whole other conversation too, but that is a business model that a lot of people are doing when the market was pretty hot.
So that's what turnkey means, is you sell a rental property with
You've already
a renter in it already
tenant,
that has
model,
money
a
coming.
property manager. It is a turnkey business. Yep.
Gotcha.
You literally day one, just all you do is buy the property and you're already cash flowing.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. And
Different model, not as profitable as doing the active work, but
okay. And this would be the same, like if you were a buyer of one of these turnkey places, basically the bank would need the same requirements as the BRRRR method when you go to refinance that, right?
so That's a good question. When you're buying turnkey, it's kind of a different model. You're usually going to be either paying cash or getting agency debt, where you're going to be getting a loan for the property.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, I mean, you're probably going to be putting down whatever the bank's requirements are, unless the seller of that turnkey is willing to owner finance. And now we've cracked open a whole new world of possibilities for creative finance. So
Gotcha.
yeah, or you can possibly get a cash out refinance done and sell it subject to that loan, and then owner finance the difference, where they can give you cash for the difference. There's a variety of ways, and that's the beautiful thing about real estate is there's so many different avenues you can take. There's all kinds of different things you can learn in this business.
And it seems like you can scale very fast with using other people's money. Like, is that kind of like...
A lot faster, yes.
It's a lot faster to do that,
Yeah.
right?
Access to capital is very important for speed.
Mm-hmm.
And a quick note on speed is that for people that are just getting started, I would say it's a double-edged sword. Don't feel like you have to rush to get your first deal going, but also realize that life is short. So like, we want to make sure that we're capitalizing on the time that we do have, and you don't have forever. So don't wait until you're 50, 60, 70. It doesn't mean that you can't get started at that age. It just means that you're having a little bit less of time to be able to capitalize on the true benefits of long-term real estate investing, which is rentals.
Yeah. I mean, this goes to any compounding interest, compounding effect in investing. Is time is almost more important than initial capital. So like,
That's exactly right.
would you take $1 million right now or 10 extra years?
10 extra years.
10 extra years for
Yeah,
sure.
the exponential growth that you're going to have, especially with where information is now, because we have access to things that people did not 20, 30 years ago. Technology alone is rapidly advancing, and the capabilities that we can utilize some of this technology to grow our portfolios is just astronomical. Because I have guys that are in my local real estate group the Real Estate Investor Association, that had they had the technology that we do now, like the internet and everything 30 years ago, these guys would buy multifamily, large commercial buildings. They would be exponentially further in their career or in their investing path.
Yeah, information moves quick.
Yeah.
Pricing information moves quick. It's going to keep moving quicker too, because even though real estate kind of moves slower than other asset classes as far as pricing, it's going to get faster and faster here. I think this is going to take us down another tangent, rabbit hole, but I think it's going to eventually be tokenized, and then all those things will be in a decentralized ledger that everyone can just see everything right away. But conversation for another time.
We can touch on that really briefly, because I think it is an important thing to know with planning about where things are going to be. And like, you're not trying to speculate and try to make assumptions on where the market's going to go at all times, but from just a simple standpoint, like right now you can log on to any county's property appraiser website and you can see who's owned that property before. Mm-hmm. There's a ledger there. And there are some states that are non-disclosure and you might not be able to get certain information, but for the most part, the clerk of court also has recordings of previous notes and mortgages on that property. Mm-hmm. So you can see a lot of that information, but the problem that I find now is that when I go to close a property and I've got to close on Friday next week, and it gets to be Friday, and now I can't close until Monday because something has happened with a lender or a seller or a title company or an attorney who can get documents fast. I find a problem with that, because if I want to close on Saturday, I can't. Banks are closed, can't make wires, and I think it's only a matter of time that it's ripe for disruption, that will eventually change for folks who actually want to get things done no matter what the day is, because it is very aggravating that happens quite a bit.
Yeah, and actually, this reminds me of something. I'm sure you're aware of FedNow, that they just passed this past week.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that? Cause
no, not enough to speak on it.
Not enough to speak on? Okay, because I don't either, but it's something...
Kept an eye on it.
Yeah, it's something that's very interesting to me that we'll see where it leads to, because I'm probably definitely going to talk about this in the future with someone.
Sure, yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys are talking about that.
Yeah, I don't know who that would be, but we'll see. But okay, so back to methods of real estate investing. So we have the house hacking, the BRRRR, the flip, and you said a fourth one, which is wholesale.
Yeah.
What is wholesale?
Good question. So wholesaling is where you get now some states have actually already made this illegal, so there's some depending upon where somebody may be watching or listening to this, it might be relevant that time may also change some of this, because there are becoming a lot of restrictions on wholesaling in certain states. So for the state of Florida, where we are currently at, I will speak on that. Illinois, it's actually illegal to wholesale. So you have to, and I'll go through the process of what that looks like, but there's a bypass you have to do in order to be able to wholesale. So wholesaling at its fundamental is getting a property under contract. Like, let's say you believe a single family house is worth $200,000. Excuse me. And you know that you can get it for $100,000 because it needs $40,000 worth of work, but it's worth $200,000 once it's done. You could get it under contract with that seller who really likes you and says, "Hey, I'll give it to you for $100,000. I just don't want to deal with the headaches." You say, "Perfect." Sign an agreement, and then you can find another buyer for maybe $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 more, whatever they deem it to be valued, and you can sell it to them on the contract. Just, you're selling paper, basically.
Yeah.
You're selling the contract. So you can then, when they go to close title, get an assignment fee from title. And there's two ways to do this. There's a way where you can just simultaneously close and use the funds from the buyer, which is just basically an A, B, C transaction where it just bypasses straight through and you get an assignment fee basically on the settlement statement. Or you can double close the property, where you can, which is basically just two different ways. You can use their funds, or you can use a third-party lender where they're transactionally funding the deal just so you can take title for 15 minutes while they close it out and then give it to the end buyer. Because if the seller's A and the end buyer's C, you're B, you're getting the contract from them, and then sometimes in certain states like Illinois, you can't utilize buyer C's money to close the deal to pay A. You have to use what's called transactional funding.
Okay.
So
this is where you need
lender,
funding in this case. Versus...
Sometimes they only charge like a 1% fee. It's not expensive.
Okay.
1 to 2, depends on what it is.
Got it.
Sometimes.
Okay. And why is it illegal? Like, what is it? Is it kind of like, why is it illegal?
It's a perfectly great question. So,
or why would it be illegal?
So there's a lot of bad business practices in the industry where people do a lot of shady things. I'm not going to call anybody out, but there's quite a few in our area here in Florida. A lot of these guys that do bad business practice, that do almost predatory things for sellers, or predatory investing, or they're getting contracts from sellers. It's difficult to explain because the National Association of Realtors sometimes has their own opinion about it, where like the law will, or sometimes the state, the realtors don't want to be able to lose business to wholesalers, where they're getting properties under contract and they're basically acting like a real estate agent, which is required to have a license in those states.
Okay.
Maybe all states, don't quote me on that, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But point being is, acting as a professional is important, whereas real estate agents have a code of ethics. The state looks at wholesalers as almost doing business as real estate agents, where they're not. But it's kind of a double-edged, or not double-edged sword. There's two ways to look at it, where it's like, yes, they are selling a property that's not theirs, but at the same time, they're contractually buying the property. So they have intent to purchase the property, so they're a real estate investor.
Got it.
So it depends on which side of the table you sit on and want to look at it, but ultimately, the wholesaler sees themselves as an actual investor that's planning on buying it. They just happen to sell it to another investor.
Okay, I see. And some states interpret that as you're basically a licensed realtor. You're trying to look for properties for someone else to buy.
Basically, you're selling properties on someone else's behalf as an unlicensed agent.
Got it.
Again, depends on which side of the table you sit on. That some don't consider it as investing. Some consider it more like a job.
Yeah,
this is transactional.
Yeah, that one to me would seem the most out of reach for most people, because that means a lot of time spent looking for those undervalued properties and having to know a lot of people in the industry to sell it to.
It's actually the easiest way to get started.
Really?
Yeah, because it is a marketing job. So you're marketing to find these great deals on properties. Mm-hmm. It is going to require some sales and negotiation skill. But for the most part, as far as learning things goes, that's something you could sit here in your studio and read and learn how to do. Mm-hmm. You can learn how to look for cash buyers in your market. You can contact local real estate agents and say, "Hey, I've got a great deal. Who do you have that's looking for a deal with this price?" And you can cut them in a commission if you want to, or however you want to stack on a fee for them.
Do you find that that's going to be easier than renovation projects?
Absolutely. You're not having to do anything besides locating the property, because if you're going to renovate a property and you're buying it, whether it's a flip or a rental, you're still having to find the property regardless.
Gotcha.
So you're just starting at the very beginning when you're wholesaling, where you're just learning how to analyze deals, maybe how to put together a scope of work to be able to figure out what repairs need to be done, how to analyze it, reading data indicators, stuff like that.
But your
Comping the property.
Your selling pool is a little smaller than the normal property, right?
Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of investors that are super active that probably want good deals, and it's one of those things where...
But you're selling to an investor. You're selling to other investors versus the other ones where you're selling to consumers.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So...
Okay. There's more consumers than investors.
For the most part, but at the same time, it's like if I told you I have a $100,000 Ferrari outside that's worth $250,000, I'll give it to you. Or excuse me, if I have a $250,000 Ferrari sitting outside and I say I'll give it to you for $100,000,
yeah,
you're gonna figure it out. You're like, oh my gosh, I can sell this to someone else for $150 or $120. A deal is a deal. If you find a great deal,
turn a consumer into an investor real quick.
Sure. you're gonna find your buyer if it's a great deal. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I like all those methods. I think my favorite when I was looking into this was probably the BRRRR, because that one seems like at the beginning it would take a lot of time, but eventually once you've amassed multiple properties, then you just got constant cash flow, right?
Yeah.
And what do they call that when you have money just coming in every month?
Passive income.
Passive income. There you go. Passive income. Then by the time you near 50, you don't even really got to work.
Yeah, it's all relative depending upon who's listening to this and their age, but yeah, you can
or at least
do it
subsidize your living
quickly.
if you only have a couple.
I will say this: if you do it correctly, within 5 years, you can change your life to where you don't even have to work anymore. Because I know for a fact that I did it. So.
Nice.
Yeah, anybody can do it. It does take a lot of upfront learning, self-educating, figuring things out, but it's absolutely worth it.
Is it something you can do while working a full-time job? Or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's harder. I didn't take that route, so I can't necessarily speak on it, but I know from other folks that are here locally and some of the other guys I know nationally that they're doing it. And it has been done countless times. I don't know if people see it as a hurdle, but at the end of the day, if you want it bad enough, you're going to figure it out. So it can be done.
I agree with that. Okay, so let's move along to throughout your experience over the last 10 years, is there any moments where you felt like that were memorable, or where you felt like I made it, or I'm doing it, or it's happening, because sometimes you go through lulls and it might be kind of a grind and it's really difficult, but then you get through it and then you come out the other side and you're like, I got through that, now I have such and such properties, now I have this much cash flow. Like, was there any moments where there was like a turning point of having made it?
I don't think anybody's ever asked me that before, so it's probably going to take me a second to really define something, but there has been a few. And
or is it more just like a steady, like...
No. No, it's
not.
not.
Like every year was better than the last, and it doesn't feel like an
nice.
actual moment because it's been the course of 10 years.
No, it's definitely had its extreme highs and lows, and there's been like several times where I just wanted to throw in the towel and be like, this is absolutely ridiculous. It's hard, it's tough. It can be made easy, and you can make it as hard as you want to be, but you want it to be. So, or you can make it as easy as you want it to be. So it depends on what you're willing to do, what you're willing to commit. I completely stepped out of any type of W-2, any type of stable environment to step into this completely, and it was probably a bit premature. And I would advise anybody that's brand new to maybe take it a little bit slower as far as transitioning out, because I know everybody wants it right now. They want to be able to walk away from their job next week, and I did that at a very last minute whim, and it thankfully worked out in the long haul. But it was very, very difficult out the gate. And as far as moments that were substantially that stood out, not too long ago I bought my first commercial property, which was a 7-unit apartment complex, and I've got several others in the pipeline cooking right now, and I can feel them coming to fruition. And I've had great conversations, and I've got contracts out with sellers, and I would definitely say when that contract came through and I knew that I could get the deal done based on the numbers, that was probably one of the biggest pivotal moments that it's like, okay, and I'm already at the point now where I don't have to work because of all the other rentals, that that one property was the breakthrough of getting into commercial real estate. That is like, okay, I'm off on this path now. Like, this is the journey. That's the most recent one. So
Got
it's
it.
definitely
So-
the most substantial.
Okay, so this is a recent event that has kind
Just a few months
of
ago.
been memorable, where you went from multifamily, single family into commercial.
Yeah. So small multifamily 1 to 4 unit has been, I mean, probably the last like I think 5 or so years is buying rentals, and the last 10 years has been like flipping, wholesaling, all that stuff pretty consistently. And then when the market went crazy last year, 2022 did step out of flipping because my lenders connected very well with some big institutional lenders, and he was saying, hey, things might hit the fan, might want to pull back a little bit. So.
Gotcha.
I would definitely say that with the shift completely to commercial, bigger properties, 10, 20, 50, 100 unit apartment complexes eventually, that getting that first property is always the hardest in commercial is what I've been told. And once it actually closed, I would say that was the, okay, I am here. I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's that snowball effect. Like, whenever you're creating wealth, making that first 10,000 is going to be harder than making the next, 50,000 or the next 100,000. It seems like as you gain more wealth, the compounding effect starts to grow, because you have more money to invest in things that are going to make you even more money, and then it just kind of,
I'd like to add one thing on that because one of my favorite quotes, I don't know who said it, and that part's probably not as important as this, that, and this is probably not as applicable to people that are just starting out, but the people that have been on this path or maybe that are investing, that are a little bit more down the road, that first million is hard work. It is so incredibly hard. But that second million is smart work. And when I heard that, and being where I am now, I actually can truly feel the impact of that, because getting to that point of, making X amount, whatever it is for you, is hard. But then, if you're trying to get to 100,000, getting to that point is hard. Second 100,000 is trying to work smart. It's more applicable when you get to the higher numbers, but it's definitely been impactful.
And I mean, it makes sense because also that first million, you gain the experience you needed. So now you know what to do to make that next million on top of the, the capital that you have now versus when you had the first million. So not only is it, the money or the capital that you have, but it's also the experience and the knowledge you gained over the last years that just takes it. So what's your goals in life when it comes to real estate?
I actually haven't shared this with anybody besides people that are really, really close to me, like family, which some of them I haven't even explicitly told everything as far as what the goal and the end outcome is, or target. So right now, my biggest focus is within the next 3 to 5 years, but my long-term goal is eventually to get to $1 billion in assets, so about $1 million a month in cash flow, and that is by 2050. So I've got about 25 years, 27 years, yeah. So I've got plenty of time to figure that out. I have a detailed plan on how I want to get there with exactly which asset classes I want to take down. I'm strictly focused on multifamily. By 2040, I would like to be able to get to 1,000 doors, or 5,000 doors rather, and by 2030, I want to get to 1,000 doors. So
Gotcha.
7 years out, about 1,000 doors. And actually, speaking of doors, and the cash flow is more important, like the revenue, because like at that point, I'd like to be able to have $100,000 a month in true passive income and a fully built out business. So for the last several years, I've been so focused on door count and how many doors I'm getting and all this, because that's what everyone talks about. It's the sexy thing of the business. So how many doors do you have?
Yeah.
And I realized just this year how important it is to actually focus on revenue more than it is doors. Because I've always had that just misunderstanding, oh, this is what matters, this is what everyone talks about. And then you realize, if you buy a quadruplex, a 4-unit building that's in Cleveland, and the rents are $500 a month, you have essentially a $24,000 a year gross operating income property. I could buy a $200,000 single family here that rents for $2,000 a month, and I'm still grossing $24,000 a year. So my biggest focus right now is actually not my door count per se, but actually getting to an X amount of revenue. My next step right now is getting to $1 million a year in gross revenue, and then getting it the next step past that is getting it to where it's net profit.
Got it. Yeah, and that would make sense. Like if you're doing your business here in Florida versus certain areas of Ohio,
yeah,
you know, the rents are completely different. The property values are completely different. Obviously, someone in like California, you know, a person who has 1,000 doors in California versus someone in Ohio, that guy's probably revenue is a lot more. Now his expense is probably more as well. So do you think?
It's all a profitability standpoint though, because it's relative. So if you're maintaining a 10% profitability on your property, like let's say your operating expenses are 40% and your mortgage for your P&I is 50%, this is like random numbers, and 10% is your profitability. If you have a guy that's like, oh, I have 1,000 doors that are like between Indianapolis and Ohio and Illinois, and all those doors are $50,000 a unit that rent for $500 a month, well, I mean, you're now talking about $50,000 a month in gross rent. 1,000 doors, $500 a month, $50,000 in gross rent. So that's, what does that break out to? $600,000 a year in gross rent. Whereas the guy who might be charging $1,000 for rent, now we're wildly different. He could own 500 doors, and he's still making the same amount of revenue and same amount of profitability, depending upon what his taxes, insurance, all the operating costs are. But that's, again, all relative. So when people talk about their door count and, how many properties do you own? At the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is because we're getting this business to make money, is how much money is it bringing in. That's all that matters.
Yeah, so when you talk about revenue, you got to always assume 10% profitability on that revenue.
Not necessarily. It could be a spectrum. It depends on how much cash you're putting down. If you're bringing in a lot more cash, you might get higher, you might get lower. It depends on how you bought the property. There's so many variables when it comes to underwriting a deal. And the other thing to keep in mind is that your starting return or profit will probably change over time, because like right now we're getting heavily impacted in Florida by insurance going crazy. So like we typically have a line item with a targeted allocated percentage for how much insurance should run of our gross rent.
Got it.
We're past that because insurance has doubled and tripled in the last 2 years.
Jeez, this is housing insurance, right?
Yeah, housing insurance for some
for like damages and stuff.
Yeah, property insurance. So your rents might go up. Your rents may increase, and now your gross income is going up, which also drives your top and your bottom line. So there's a lot of variables where your starting point is not where you're always going to be, and we do go back quarterly and look at these numbers to figure out where our percentages are, and we make adjustments on new purchases based on historical data for like where our numbers run.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. Maintenance cost, vacancy, all that stuff.
Yeah, interesting. You're investing in housing, people to live. Is there ever a chance that maybe in the future you might consider like commercial real estate? I know that market right now is a little bit wobbly, but commercial or industrial real estate for businesses, has that ever been on your radar? And if not, why? What is it about those?
Reasonable question. So to clarify, 1 to 4 units of property is residential, and 5+ for multifamily is considered commercial. So you have subcategories of commercial. You have different asset classes. So multifamily is considered commercial. It's 5+. You have agricultural. You have industrial. You have retail. You have office, which is getting absolutely hammered right now because of the COVID pandemic and everyone kind of vacating offices. So as far as alternative asset classes, again, my biggest fundamental factor is food, water, shelter. I know people need a place to live. I like to focus in the workforce luxury area, where it's to explain some asset class indicators. Like Class A is your luxury type properties, has a nice pool, maybe a tennis court, gym in the building, something like that. Class B is a little bit older, maybe it's like 20 years older in construction, it's a little bit outdated. Class C is a little bit, like maybe 40, 50 years old in construction, doesn't have the amenities. And Class D is like a war zone. Like you probably don't want to be there. We're talking like Compton, those type areas. Maybe Detroit. Not knocking Detroit.
The whole city of Detroit.
Yeah. So that's your areas that are war zones are Pine Hills. For those that are familiar with Florida. So as far as different asset classes, I like the idea of just sticking with my path of knowing that shelter is a necessity for us. And I have looked at alternative asset classes like self-storage, where it might be a little bit more recession resistant. because people still need to store things. But I love multifamily because it's the most recession resistant.
Yeah.
Not for Class A, because right now in Class A, for multifamily, we have 2 million new units coming online this year. So certificate of occupancy is being issued, and those are Class A apartments that are like $3,000 to $4,000 a month in rent.
Gotcha.
So I may consider looking at alternative asset classes outside of multifamily eventually, but it won't be office, and it probably won't be industrial. It might be, I don't know. Like, you're not going to store a roll of carpet in your house. Like, no matter what's going on in the economy, people are still going to need materials like flooring, stuff like that. So industrial may be something that I'll look at, as opposed to, or like logistics, like an Amazon facility, something like that. Pharmacies like a CVS, you can buy those properties. If you look on like LoopNet or CoStar, which are commercial websites that allow you to list and sell properties. Usually brokers use them most commonly. You can buy banks where the bank has a long-term lease. You can buy Home Depot property where they do like a land lease. There's all kinds of different asset classes, and I may consider things like pharmacy or industrial down the road, but right now I'm sticking to my path.
Sticking to the path.
Yeah, multifamily.
Are those, I mean, when the going's good, are those more profitable or could be more profitable, even though they're less recession-proof?
So I think profitability is relative. What did you buy it for? What is the rent? So to say as a blanket statement, is it more profitable? I don't know. But what I do know is that more commonly they're less hands-on. They are very passive investments. They are triple net leases where they take care of everything on the property. You just collect a check every month. And I don't want to say the problem with it, because the benefit of that is that it is so passive, but the opposite side to that is that because it's so passive, you usually get lower returns because you're not really doing anything. They're desirable properties because when you buy them, you don't have to do anything. So the type of people that own those properties are usually a little bit more closer to retirement age. They don't want to deal with anything. Maybe they were doing active investments previously. Maybe they had hotels or multifamily or other asset classes that were a little more active, and then they sold into something that was extremely passive that allowed them to now step away, still earn a return, but not have to deal with the headaches and like day-to-day stuff because they don't want to deal with property managers or whatever.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this would lead me into a second question for maybe something you're thinking about in the future. What about construction? Have you ever thought about, instead of buying these places, building them?
Yes. So eventually that is actually the plan. That's part of the business plan about 10 years down the road from now. Right now in the cycle, it's all, I don't want to say it's timing, you're not necessarily timing the market, but it is cyclical because when you're building in an environment where your capitalization rates, and this is going to go off to a little bit of the commercial side, so most people might not find this as applicable, but it can be for residential as well, so just take it how you will. But for commercial property, if you're going to build a 100-unit apartment complex, if your capitalization rates, which is the return on investment you get based on the price that you pay for the property, so like if you paid $1 million for property and you earned a net of $100,000 a year, your capitalization rate is 10%. But where your capitalization rates are falling because the demand is high and you're only earning a 5% capitalization rate, but your interest rates are skyrocketing and they're 6-7%, and your cap rate and your interest rate have become inverse, it's not a healthy environment to build. And that can kind of be applicable for residential because if your interest rates are super high, but it's also a supply and demand issue, so it's kind of not the same.
I was going to say, that's kind of the environment we're in now, isn't it?
Yeah, so supply and demand is a problem.
But then supply is still so low.
It is,
compared to demand, which shocks me. I just don't. When they raised interest rates, I was shocked. I was like, dude, real estate's going to get hit super hard. Yet people are still buying houses. They are. You can still find buyers, right?
Yeah. So
even with these interest rates.
Yeah, there are properties. Like a good data source to look at to be able to see how many properties are selling is the National Association of Realtors. They release a monthly report and an annual report, and it shows month over month and year over year data. And I probably should explain like a buyer's market and a seller's market. For those that do not know, if there are, I'll explain the supply too. If there are 1,000 houses that sold last month, and the month prior 1,000 sold, and right now there's 3,000 houses listed on the market, that's a 3-month supply. That's a strong seller's market because there's not a whole lot of supply. If there was 9,000 houses on the market and only 1,000 are selling each month, well then now you have a 9-month supply of houses. So that's a strong buyer's market. Anything over 6 months is a strong buyer's market. Anything less than 6 months is a strong seller's market. So a couple different factors to look at, or just little things you can look at as the National Association of Realtors data. I don't think we're ever going to see an environment, knock on wood, where 0 houses have sold last month. I think there will, let's hope not. There will always be, whether it's cash or whatever, someone will always have money to purchase a property or seller finance, whatever it is. So I feel like there's always room to be able to be successful in real estate, because we're never going to log in there and see on the report, which is like, I think it's nar.com or something like that. You can search National Association of Realtors.
Got it.
And there's never going to be a time when there's 0 properties that have sold. So that always means that properties are always changing hands. Even in 2008, 9, and 10, when the market was, going crazy and things were burning to the ground, properties were still changing hands. So you can look at things like that for a good data resource, and you can also look at what new construction builders are offering for incentives. If they're offering crazy buyer incentives, it's probably not a good time for you to be building either. If they're offering, huge down payment or closing cost credits and like all these crazy bonuses and stuff like that, it's probably not a good time.
So
I know it was a little long-winded, but
well,
all over the place.
Given today's environment with high interest rates, yet supply and demand being, on the demand side is being higher, do you think building right now is a good idea? Probably yes, right? Because they're still building, since there's the demand out there. As long as there's demand, higher interest rates really don't matter until the demand dries up, right?
Fundamentally, that it's sound, but then you also have to look at it technical. It's like, I sometimes like to compare real estate to stocks, where there are fundamental analyses that you can do, and you can analyze it fundamentally, you can analyze it technically. So like, if you're going to look at stocks fundamentally, what's like the income, what's going on with like the stock price, and you can look at technical analysis. Okay, what's going on with the chart? There's other little indicators. So charting things out, whatever. With real estate, fundamentally, supply and demand. If it's there, build, right? But then technically, now you have to look at all the other indicators. How many building permits have been applied for? What's going on with the big builders? Are they still building? Is there a supply that's a wave that's about to hit us? Like commercial, we have 2 million new units that are going to hit us that are Class A within this calendar year.
Okay.
That have a certificate of occupancy. Figuring out those technical analysis.
These places are already bought.
They're already built. They're about to be like issued their certificate where they can allow people to move in and rent. So doing the same analysis for single family, you could look at how many new construction, and like this data is on there. Like NAR has their own thing. You can ask a realtor to pull the data from the MLS, whatever submarket you're in, and looking at that data of how many, or you can even find out from the state like how many permits have been pulled for new construction and stuff like that. So.
Got it. So we have, how many is it that are going to hit the market?
For multifamily?
Yeah.
About 2 million new units.
2 million
Class
units.
A. Yep. Okay. Your luxury apartments, like your $2,000 a month for a 1-bedroom, which if you're talking California, that's too cheap.
Yeah, and this is all over the nation, right?
This is all across the United States.
Okay. So it might be obvious, but how is that going to affect the real estate market in your opinion?
I'm not saying it is obvious, because things work in weird ways sometimes. But
you would think it would. Yeah, it's going to more supply comes on, might be sufficient for demand considering interest rates. Do you think it might dip the market a little bit?
I would say that it is going to impact it from maybe a rent perspective, because they're going to. So a lot of the times when they build new construction properties, they have a lease-up period, and they're usually using some type of a construction loan. Not always. Sometimes they use all cash. They raise the money, or they have the money. If it's a big, powerhouse like Blackstone or one of the big guys, they'll just come in with cash or however they're doing it. So there's a lease-up period. So for the first 12 to sometimes 24 months to 30 months, they're trying to just get this place occupied. And what they have to do sometimes is, if things aren't moving quick enough because the demand isn't there and their absorption rate isn't high enough, is they're having to lower rents. And that can impact surrounding rents, which then could impact single family if other rents are kind of in a little standstill or decline. It just kind of causes a ripple effect across the board in different ways and sectors. So I'd say it's going to impact it for sure.
So these 2 million units that are coming on, they're just for rent, or they're also for sale, or a mix of both?
No, they're not condos. Those are strictly for rent. Those are apartments.
Those are strictly for rent. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can also look at the single family data and figure out how much, how many houses. I'm stepping out of that sector, so I'm not keeping a thumb on it. But you could also find the data for single family, how many is being built, it's county level, state level, countrywide, to be able to get some good indicators and figure out what's happening, both micro and macro.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because I've been thinking about moving closer to downtown. I don't want to move into one of the apartment complexes or high rises or anything like that. I'm not interested in sharing walls or anything like that. But their rents, even though the spaces are nice, but their rents are always consistently a little bit higher than homes right there in Thornton Park or Colonial Town, right next to downtown. And I'm kind of like, all right, if that is the what's the word, standard for what a 2.2 is going to cost, as someone who's renting a home in the area, you can be like, okay, I can just become $100 below that, and not only offer a 2.2, but it's an entire home,
Yeah, I had this conversation with someone the other day, and it goes back to like the door count versus revenue count, where it's like it's not apples to apples. It's apples to oranges. They're two different products. So when you're looking at a high-rise apartment complex that's a Class A property, they have amenities. Now you're also getting an amenity when you're a single-family home, where it's like you have the yard and you have like your own space, and you're not sharing walls. That's an amenity to me.
Yeah.
So
assuming you want to like keep up with the maintenance and all this other stuff, because I know that's a reason why people. Yeah. Some of my friends, they do not want to live in a home. Yeah. Because the headaches that come with maintaining a house it's not worth it to them. Which is fine. I'm not like that. I will maintain the home and prefer the space and the privacy versus, a high rise, but
it's a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
But again, there's amenities there. They have a gym probably in the building. They have the pool. They have it.
Yeah, we still pay for gyms because all my friends that do this, we all pay way more money than most people just to go to a gym. But I understand what you're saying.
And it depends on who you are and what you're looking for. But I would say that it's difficult to run a comparable rental analysis on a high-rise to a single-family house because they're not the same product.
Yeah.
Now,
right.
while you might see similar trends in pricing, that's just because there are some similarities as far as price per square foot, what you're going to pay. If you get a 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom single-family house versus a 3-bedroom 1,200 square foot apartment, your size is comparable, but now what else are you getting for that? So it's like, if they're a mile apart, yes, but at the same time, they're still totally different products.
Yeah, so they're different products.
You have to pay for parking sometimes.
Yeah.
Factor that in.
So they're different products, and I know they wouldn't be compared as comparable, or they wouldn't be comps, but usually it's the same type of people that would rent an apartment versus a home. You wouldn't say that?
I disagree with you. You just said that it wasn't 30 seconds ago.
Well, it wasn't.
Like
it's not comparable as far as price, but your target person.
I meant your demographic. Yeah, so your demographic. So you just said you don't want to live in a high rise. Your other friends that want to live in a high rise don't want to live in a house because they don't want to deal with the maintenance.
Okay,
so there is a clear difference in the type of person that
it's the type of person, not just necessarily.
Yeah.
Okay. A person versus so like
it's preference. Yeah.
Got it.
But if you're renting a house and the rent is including lawn maintenance, you're not really maintaining it. You're not maintaining the AC. You're not dealing with all the things you need to know to keep up with the house. If you're renting it, so it depends on your perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean now with interest rates so high, renting seems cheaper. Right?
It depends. Yeah.
I mean,
depends on the market. It depends on what type of property you're buying. It depends on your lifestyle.
Yeah.
If you're buying a $500,000 white picket fence house, it might be cheaper for you to rent.
Yeah. It all depends on where you want to live too. Because I want to go closer to downtown. Obviously, I've looked into buying down there.
It's very expensive.
Too expensive.
Most major metro areas that have a big city like that are going to be pretty expensive right now.
But Lakeland,
it's
probably pretty affordable right now. Maybe?
No. So 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms over there, and like even Tampa and Orlando, 1 bedrooms over there I think are like 1,500 downtown.
Even in Lakeland now,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. So like your secondary markets like that are outside of your major metro areas like Tampa, Orlando, Miami, depending upon what state you're in, your just major metro areas. Those secondary markets are still pretty high right now. And if you go to a tertiary market where it's like out in the boondocks.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there a third?
Yeah, there is. That's your tertiary market.
Bowling Greens.
It's like if you know where Denellen or it's like Ocala in Florida would be considered a secondary market. It's getting pretty big. It might become a primary, but it's like really? Jacksonville, Tallahassee, Tampa, Orlando, Daytona, Miami, Naples are all primary markets. Whereas your secondary markets like Altamont Springs, Oviedo. Those are your secondaries too.
Altamont Springs is secondary?
Maybe not. It's still secondary. It's not a primary market, but it is outside of the major metro area of Orlando. And you go a little bit further out, to your very rural areas, and those are tertiary. Like those are your very affordable. Not much going on out there, but and you can still invest in those markets and be very successful.
Of course.
Yeah,
I mean, because things are dirt cheap down there, and there's probably not too many investors. So if you go down there and start making things new, you can start. Probably.
Well, one thing I would say to look at is how much the population, or how big the population is, and how much it is growing.
Yeah.
You want to buy in an area where the population is still growing. You don't want to buy in a declining population.
So this
you are shooting yourself in the foot if that's happening.
Yeah.
Which there's some areas in like Alabama, Mississippi that's happening.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, you don't want to buy in like Montgomery, Alabama. No offense against it. That's a declining market right now in population. So you want to look at those data drivers.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because maybe 7 years ago now, I knew a friend that she worked for the city of Bartow, and they were doing everything, like their job was basically to try to convince people not to move out. Like that was part of their, like, what can we do? What amenities can we put here to try to keep people here? This was probably 2016.
Wow.
Yeah, not that long ago.
I mean, you and I had a rental there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's funny how
there, so
things have changed since then, because back then it was trying to convince people to not move to the city, to Tampa, to Orlando, because all the young people as they grew up, they're like, there's nothing here. Let's go move it. It seems like maybe it was starting to happen before. I don't know, you have a better idea, but it seems like since the pandemic happened, huge wave of money just came into everything. It has like priced people out of the major cities to move into these more secondary markets, I guess.
Affordable markets.
Because it's more affordable, even though probably them moving into them makes it unaffordable now. Because they're pushing it up.
Where the people go, the demand goes.
Yeah, but also in those areas you also have a lot of like warehouses and distribution hubs, and Amazon is in Lakeland, right?
Auburndale,
Auburndale.
Massive. There's one in Lakeland. There's two there.
Yeah.
Massive hubs for both Orlando and Tampa. Yeah, which has been booming a lot of things.
And it's actually not that far of a drive to Tampa, so people are willing to like go live out there and either work for one of the the big, either that, or if they do have a job in the city, maybe they're okay with driving an hour in.
Well, it's so like right now I'm temporarily living in Lakeland. I'll probably be there for a couple months. I moved there a few months ago, but it's only a 30-minute drive to Tampa.
Yeah.
So it's just outside of it, where it's not in the chaos, but not that it's ideal either. But
and then
you can
work
be
from
just
home.
outside. Yeah.
Yeah. Work from home. I mean, I work from home now too. So like technically, I could go live wherever, but I don't want to live in one of those places.
It's a sacrifice right now, but. For me personally to do it, but even for other people, I would recommend at least trying it, because if you can move about within an hour where you live now, and eventually you get back, if you're willing to make those short-term sacrifices, there are some huge benefits that can come your way, because you can find a lot of great deals in those areas where it's just outside of those major markets. As long as the population's there is something that's supporting it with jobs, average income. You want to look at a lot of different data points to make sure that it's a sustainable investment. But
yeah, we kind of got lucky here in Florida. A lot of people moved in during the pandemic. Changed everything. It's like one of those times where there was like a pivotal shift in society.
Yeah, we're kind of the outlier of the states right now, because I think nationally we're starting to see a little bit of a pullback in the market with the interest rates going crazy. But you know, Florida has had so much migration, just people coming from everywhere else. But from some of the data that I've seen, it seems like a lot of people that are in different states are actually kind of getting called back. So we're actually, I'm not saying we're in a declining situation where population is declining, we're still growing, but it's not like what it was 2 years ago during, you know, 2021, 2020, when the pandemic was hitting and people were moving. So I think it, you know, we're still seeing a little bit of increase, but it's people are starting to move back.
Yeah, I know.
Well, they don't like it, you know.
Yeah. The tech companies, I know they're trying to get them back in the office. Maybe it's also just people are like, okay, things have calmed down, you know, let's go back home or something like that. So, yeah, it's like, well, it'll be interesting to see where it goes, but I still think that that's a pivotal moment in society. 9/11 was another one. You know, it basically changed our lives from here on in. You know, so yeah. Mark, good conversation. Thanks for coming on.
Grateful for you having me on. It's really do appreciate it. Been friends for a long time, and I'm happy to see you put this together. And you know, excited to see where you go with this.
Perfect. Thank you, buddy.